Anyway, how are things going in old Blighty?
So, old Blighty. So, I wanted to play some clips first for some context about all of this. So, we in England have had a huge problem with dealing with Islamic fundamentalism because we just refuse to accept that it exists by the looks of it. So, you remember we've had huge...
So we're taking the Joe Biden approach to dealing with the problem.
Yeah, I mean, there have been some good things over the years, but mostly bad. But the cartoons one is the most interesting one for me because our Prime Minister has been able to point out, unlike Barack Obama in his day, that Islamic extremism comes from Islam. But there are other parts where we are pathetic. And the most pathetic, I think, is on cartoons and freedom of expression because there's this sort of political attitude in the UK that anything offensive isn't really worthy of politics and everything has to be prim and proper. And it means that anything offensive, we just sort of throw under the bus. And whenever the cartoon crisis came up, in every instance in which it's happened, Britain kowtowed. And the worst offender being Charlie Hebdo, in my view. So this is a clip from Sky News in which they're trying to talk around Charlie Hebdo, but at the time, for context, every British media outlet that was mainstream did not publish the cartoons. They refused to. Like, all the French did, because it was like, well, what are you going to do? Shoot us all. And that's the correct way of dealing with it.
Yeah.
But we immediately just kowtow to Sharia. You know, ISIS, you are right, we will censor the cartoons.
Based France stands up to Islamo-leftism.
Yeah, so this French person here actually tries to show up Sky News and just to see how bad everything is.
I can't believe we've been shown up by the French.
Yeah, let's play.
Is this, which is completely crazy, that in UK you cannot show a simple drawing as that.
So we're
with Mohammed
here at Sky News, we've chosen not to show that cover, so we would appreciate Caroline not showing that. I do apologise for any of our viewers who may have been offended by that. As you know, here in Sky News, we've taken the editorial decision not to feature the cover of Charlie Hebdo.
Okay, but I'm offended by that editorial decision. What now?
I mean, just like the cameraman lifting up the camera to point at the roof because he's like, no, we can't dare to insult Islam.
Yeah, we're a halal news station.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Sky News is owned by MSNBC, in case you're wondering, Americans. So that's how bad they are.
I wonder if GB News are going to be a halal news station.
They better be haram. Yeah. Anyway, but it's not just the media. Our mainstream politicians, particularly our prime ministers, have been pretty awful on this as well. Theresa May being the worst example. So I want to play some sections from a speech she gave to Conservative Party conference in which she's talking to Conservative members, and they applauded this. Let's just play.
The terrorists who murdered David Haines like to call themselves the Islamic State. But I will tell you the truth. They are not Islamic, and they are not a state.
That's right, I'm a conservative.
The Quran says, O mankind, we created you from a single pair of a male and a female, and made you into nations and tribes that ye may know each other. It says, let there be no compulsion in religion. So let this message go out from this hall. Let the message go out that we know Islam is a religion of peace and it has nothing to do with the ideology of our enemies. Let us stand. Their actions have absolutely no basis in anything written in the Quran. What they believe has no resemblance whatsoever to the beliefs of more than 1 billion Muslims all over the world. This hateful ideology has nothing to do with Islam itself.
Imagine how that sounds in the Middle East. Sorry, there's a Western woman who's telling us that we're not real Muslims. So what does she know? Nothing.
Islamic extremism has nothing to do with Islam itself. I mean, Allahu Akbar, the chief scholar of the UK is here to tell you that I've read the Quran, and no, it has nothing to do with Islam. Vote for the British Caliphate. We're the Conservatives, better than the alternative.
Like, she clearly doesn't know that Islam's 1,400 years old, and there's been actually a great amount of intellectual work that's gone into the paradigm of Islam.
No one with a bigger brain as Mrs. May here. Brothers and sisters, come and listen.
We Conservatives are the true caliphate.
God, it's so bad, it's not even funny. Like, that's our leaders, and then you've got Macron across the pond going, exactly. Islamo-leftism needs to die. It is a cancer to Western civilization. It's like...
Oh God! I'm cheering for the French.
Yeah, that's one of our ex-prime ministers. I haven't heard. David Cameron wasn't much better. He always said that Islam is a religion of peace whenever he could find an awkward silence to fill. And luckily, Boris Johnson hasn't said anything on this, so I'm interested to see what he does when a issue pops up like that, which it has. So this is
but conversely, Boris is like, we're gonna put the letterboxes in their place.
So I expect him to be solid on this.
Yeah.
So this is the issue that we're talking about. So that for the context of how bad Britain is on this issue. So this is Batley Grammar School, which was a school that was founded in 1612. It's a 409-year-old school, which has been set up by a Christian back in the day in 1612.
Exactly the kind of Islamic school that the Conservatives are conserving.
Yes, so you can imagine what this purpose and its likeness was like in 1612. Well, now that we've had the wonders of mass immigration and the diversity that is our strength, we've had a bit of a change to the local population there. So if we can go to the next link, this is just some demographic data. So if we can scroll down a little bit so the lovely boys and girls can see, scroll down on the right side so you can get the statistics. So this is Batley West, so this is the western part of it, and you can see that 32% of the population identify themselves as Muslim, if you can scroll down some more, and then 32% of the population identify themselves as Asian. So probably the Asian population there, just for context, in England we call people from the Indian subcontinent Asian, God knows why. So probably the Pakistani, Bangladeshi people there, with 12% born outside of the UK and EU, so overwhelmingly probably Pakistan by the guest of it. And then there's Batley East, which is a bit more extreme than 32% of the population being Asian Muslim. This one has 55% Muslim, 54% Asian. So majority Muslim, majority Asian, with 19.5% born outside of the UK.
So it's one of those areas of the UK that the English are in the minority in their own city.
In this constituency here, the other one being pretty close at 30%.
Yeah.
And to keep in mind, this data is from 2011. So
Yeah.
10 years have passed since then.
Looking forward to this year's census.
Going to be interesting. So there is a school, that school I mentioned, is on the border between these two constituencies. And the school itself has some interesting data. So if you want to scroll down as well to the ethnic part here. So they say in here that 30% of the students have English not as a first language. So what is that like?
And again, this was in 2011.
Yeah. And then if you scroll down even further, just the ethnic part, 23.5% of the pupils identify as white British. That's the majority group of the UK, being 23% there. And the majority group in this school is Pakistani at 29.3%, referencing themselves as Pakistani. So overwhelmingly a Pakistani-dominated school, by the sounds of it, in a Pakistani-dominated area. Just saying that's what it is.
Okay, good
So,
context.
what did you think would happen in an area like this, where the population is becoming more and more Islamic? Well, we'd introduce Sharia, because why wouldn't we? So let's get the next link from Andy No. So this is a protest outside that school, because there was apparently a teacher who dared to blaspheme. He dared to take some Muhammad cartoons in a religious education lesson about blasphemy, and showed them the cartoons to say, this is blasphemy in Islam. That's
This is gonna turn into a Samuel Paty situation, isn't it?
This is exactly what Samuel Paty did, and then he was beheaded. So the school did this. They showed the cartoons, apparently, and then a gang of Muslim men decided to come outside. I don't know how many of them have students there. I'm just going to assume they do, for the sake of argument. So they're all upset that their kids have been shown an image of Muhammad, which I don't care.
I can see that they're very well integrated with the local population by taking on the local Yorkshire dress, which is a long thobe.
Well, you can't actually blame them for not being integrated with the local population. They are. They're integrated with the local population that is overwhelmingly Pakistani.
Yeah, they are the local population. Right?
So what are you complaining about?
I suppose so.
The protest took place here. The teacher has issued a hostage statement. So we get the next image up. Just show you him standing there. Presumably this is how it went down. And he said that he was suspending all religious education teaching until an independent inquiry into the teaching had taken place to determine if something had gone wrong. He'd also suspended the teacher for being a blasphemer, and then apologized to the Islamic community for offending Islam, and that was his hostage statement: please don't cut my head off. Yeah, good. I love living in England. What a wonderful place. And then the Islamist lobby is also saying that that's not really enough. So this is one of them calling for the suspension of the teacher before it had been announced. So you can see here, this is Roshan M. Saleh, a representative of 5 Pillars.
Batley Grammar School did the right thing by apologising for one of its teachers who showed blasphemous images of the Prophet to Muslim pupils. The UK should not become a hate-filled anti-Muslim country like France. The teacher now needs to be suspended or sacked. Why stop there? Is there any other precedent that we could apply to this teacher for showing a cartoon of a Prophet Muhammad?
I'm sure. I wonder what the Sharia says. Yeah. I mean, you are an Islamist, so, I mean, who else are you going to appeal to for the correct punishment? Other than the Quranic texts the Islamic laws that come with
So
it.
literally, you're not allowed to blaspheme against Islam now.
But I love the idea that France is a anti-Muslim country because they believe in free speech. Like when the Charlie Hebdo cartoonist got killed, the overwhelming mood in France by politicians and the culture was, no, we will not give up this right. We are allowed to draw Muhammad. And then so on and so forth, even with all the murders and terrorist attacks. I mean, you can see even Emmanuel Macron saying Islamo-leftism is evil and needs to be purged from our country.
Yeah.
Good. I'm glad they learnt the lesson. But apparently, no, that's anti-Muslim hatred for demanding liberalism. So
Okay, Han, let's assume it is. What do we sacrifice? Do we sacrifice Islam or do we sacrifice liberalism?
that's the decision all of the West has to make.
Yeah, and Britain has made its choice.
England made the wrong choice, or at least this school did. So this school's head teacher decided to cuck on it. So let's get the next link. This is our reporting from lotuseaters.com, so you can read the full information there, but I'm just going to gloss over a few bits. So this is him being suspended for daring to blaspheme in a class about blasphemy. And it mentions at the end here, if you go to the bottom, there's a tweet from I can't remember, what is it, Britain Group or whatever? Like the traditional
Britain Group.
Yeah, they've got a post here. So this is an Islamic charity deciding to ramp up the pressure on this whole situation. And in here, you can see they've had to censor some parts because they mentioned the name of the teacher in question multiple times.
Really, that's weird. It's almost like they are doing the same thing as what happened to Samuel Paty leading up to his execution.
It's not like they don't know that has happened.
Of course not.
They actively know it's happened. And they know they shouldn't name him, but they're like, we'll just drop in the names, see what happens.
Wouldn't it be a shame if something terrible happened to this particular teacher who we're going to name over and over and over and over?
Yeah, and you can see in there they're also referencing genocide. They're equating his actions here, showing a cartoon to students about blasphemy with an image of blasphemy. They're equating that to a genocide and saying that the genocide will only increase if we allow this behavior to continue.
What?
It's just like, what are you talking about? Like, is that a threat? I don't know how else to take that.
So if we don't all accept the Sharia, then Muslims are being genocided.
Yes. That's their argument, which, I mean, Jesus Christ. So
Macron is right, I'm just saying.
That's the Islamist lobby.
I'm going to get a poster of Macron's shining face up behind me. Like, just Macron, like, you know, have you seen, like, the picture of, like, Zarathustra? The Zoroastrian ones where he's looking up to the heavens and he's glowing and there's light all around him. I'm going to get that for Macron.
Macron rising to paradise on a winged horse.
The Jupiterian presidency rising, you know, because if it's that or this, then give me that, man.
Yeah,
Jesus.
I have seen Voltaire's ghost response to this as well. There's him saying that he's actually going to move to France. I imagine he's not joking as well because he's very...
Bonjour! Welcome to the podcast of Les Lotus Eaters.
I mean, honestly, where are we in a position to complain here? Oh, Britain's better than France. I mean,
no,
really?
We're not. They're kicking our asses.
So this is the argument from the Islamist lobby. They managed to get one of the representatives from the, let's say, Irritated Fathers Brigade.
Is he from a cave in Syria? What the fuck?
So he gives his argument here.
Okay.
And let's just play the argument from them.
Head teacher has written to everybody, and yet there are still protests.
I've not had a personal response myself. However, we have seen that the teacher has been in question, has been suspended, and there's been an apology from the headmaster. However, we've not had an apology from the teacher, which speaks volumes. And as far as I'm concerned, you know, suspension isn't enough. I mean, this type of sadistic behaviour in a classroom with children should not be accepted. The context was there was a cartoon shown of the Prophet, peace be upon him, with a bomb on his turban, and I think the teacher was trying to make an example of teaching blasphemy and a ridiculous way of teaching a subject by insulting 2 billion Muslims around the world. Let's put this in frank terms. Had this been a comment made against the LGBT group or anti-Semitic group, and quite rightly so, I must add, you know, the teacher would have been, and it's happened before, people have lost their jobs. So why are we why are we treating the Muslims differently? All we want is justice. And, you know, people seem to be abusing the rights of freedom of speech.
Unreal. I mean, the bit where he says, you know, what is it, that's not enough or something.
The teacher hasn't apologised, so we need him to bow down. And a suspension isn't enough for such sadistic behaviour.
I mean, what is enough then? Like, what has to happen to him? And they want justice for something that's not a crime.
It's a crime in Islam. And there's a punishment given in Islam for such crimes.
God, I'm really looking forward to the Conservatives publicly executing this teacher.
I mean, God know what he's saying in between the lines there. But let's get this image up. So this is him, what he's referencing here. So he said that there was a image of Muhammad with a bomb in his turban.
Yeah, that's from the Danish cartoonist.
Yeah, I've seen almost everyone trying to say that this is Charlie Hebdo, and loads of people in talk radio and whatnot as well. And I don't know why they're forgetting, but no, that image, if you go to the next
there was
one
a Danish cartoonist who drew Muhammad and was murdered by a Muslim.
So this was an event where you drew Muhammad, and one of them drew it like this. And then there were global riots in which Muslim governments allowed their communities, because protests aren't normally allowed in these countries.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, they were allowing them to start rioting and burning down Danish embassies. And a lot of people ended up dying because of intolerance from the Muslim governments there. So that's what they're referencing. That's the offensive thing. That's the thing that deserves him to get suspended, because he was like, hey, I'm going to teach you about blasphemy. This image here is blasphemy in Islam. And they're like, no, that's not allowed. It was like, well, if you used an image of blasphemy in Christianity, that would be fine. There'd be no complaints. But Islam gets a special privilege in our society.
Yeah. Or any other religion.
And the other point at the end there,
And the only thing you could compare it to was our actual official state religion, which is the LGBT lobby.
Exactly. So the point he made at the end there, which he compared it to, was like, well, look, you in Britain have blasphemy laws against SJWs. We deserve the same rights as all of the SJWs in this country and have blasphemy laws against our religion as well. And he's not wrong.
Yeah.
So
and Boris was like, that's right, I'm a conservative.
So the next link here is just section 127, just for anyone who's forgetting, in which it is a crime for a person is guilty of an offence if he sends by means of a public communication electronics a message or other matter which is grossly offensive. And there was one Northern Irish pastor who said that Islam was satanic online and ended up getting taken to court over it. Luckily, he was acquitted, but that is a real case.
Sorry, your theological arguments are null and void, and you have been fined 1 credit for a violation of the verbal morality statute.
Yeah, and not even just to talk about the law. I mean, conservatives, if you're watching, get rid of this. This isn't hard. Like, if you want to argue for free speech, number 1, there you go, done. And then no one has this argument of Muslims deserve the same rights as SJWs.
Yeah, then everyone has the same rights, which is free speech.
But let's go away from the law for a second. That's how bad this country is. We have to argue about state law being censorious. But the cultural part he made there, well, if a teacher had said something about SJW propaganda, then he'd be fired. Yes, he would. So this is an Oxford teacher who was suspended for calling a student a she when they identified as a he. So he said to a group of pupils, well done, girls, despite one of the group identifying as male. And he got suspended for that, because he had blasphemed against LGBT propaganda. I mean, it's just how dare he? How dare he say, well done, girls, to a group of girls and one girl who identifies as a male? He's not wrong. The Muslims here are not wrong. If they're going to say, look, under British law, you have special privileges for blasphemy against SJW nonsense, we deserve the same privileges. What's the argument? We don't have one. Our civilization is pathetic. I can't get over it. Like, we've given up everything, and we have no leg to stand on in this regard until we get rid of this stuff. So, and then there's the conservatives. So this is, Darren Grimes trying to give an argument here. So it's a bit of a tepid conservative, but he's giving the argument that we should have such rights. So him saying here,
Darren Grimes, maybe Theresa May's wrong and we shouldn't be the seat of the global caliphate.
Yeah, we don't have blasphemy laws in Britain. Darren, that's a lie. We do.
Yeah, we do.
Sorry.
Darren.
I don't know if you're unaware, but that's the case. Teachers are free to explore religions and themes. No, they're not. Our school mustn't be intimidated into submission or daring to do so. I agree with that part. I agree that we should live in a free country, but too bad. This is all Islamophobia, according to Dr. Shola. Dr. Shola has something to say about this.
Oh, she's come to berate the evil white man for his evil white ways.
So this is the lady they have on GB News all the time.
No, Good Morning Britain.
Good Morning Britain, to just complain that Britain is bad. So her response to him here...
Shut up, Piers, you're a racist, Piers. Oh, thanks, Shola. Appreciate that.
So him saying we don't have blasphemy laws in Britain, this is Islamophobia couched as freedom of speech. Are you figuring this out now, Darren? We don't have these rights. We do have blasphemy laws. They're just on the basis of SJW language. It's not Western liberalism to draw a cartoon of the Prophet Muhammad, which is against Muslim beliefs. What? And you don't need to teach kids about Islam in a religious education class. It's not Western liberalism to have the freedom to insult Islam.
Amazing.
What a take. And then you don't have to teach kids about Islam in a religious education class.
I don't really take Dr. Shola's view on this very seriously, because as far as I'm concerned, she's a communist.
But this is the mainstream Labour Party view. Yes. I mean, that's the thing to keep in mind.
As far as I'm concerned, they're communists too.
Even as I show you Theresa May saying we should set up the British Caliphate, the opposition here is like, well, I thought we were already there. So that's what we're dealing with.
Mashallah.
telling Muslims to stuff it if they don't like it, that is Western liberalism, is reprehensible.
Well, to you maybe, but I'm assuming that you're a Muslim. Like, I don't care if Muslims don't like it, and I don't see why I should be forced to care.
Western liberalism is non-negotiable.
Yes.
It's that simple.
Like, I just don't believe in Allah and Muhammad being the seal of the prophets. I'm sorry, Dr. Shola. It is actually permissible under Western liberalism for some people not to be Muslims.
For how long?
Not very long,
There we go.
as far as the Conservatives are concerned.
Speaking of how far the Conservatives are concerned, let's talk about a former chairman of the Conservative Party, Baroness Warsi. So let's go up the next one. So this is her trying to defend the whole situation. A religious education teacher taught blasphemy by using an image of the Charlie Hebdo cartoons. Again, you don't know anything. Bombers a turban. Yep, that's not the Charlie Hebdo cartoons. This, according to parents at the school, created a hostile atmosphere which led to Islamophobic discourse and language.
Based.
So teachers saying, here's what blasphemy is. Here's an image of the blasphemy to teach you what blasphemy is. It's Islamophobic of you.
Good.
Shut it down.
Sounds exciting.
But then she goes on to argue that this whole issue is not about freedom of speech versus Islamist terror, but instead about child safeguarding. That we must safeguard children from bullying in the playground because the other students who have learnt about blasphemy will call them a terrorist. It's like just nonsense.
I think if you start terrorizing them because of blasphemy, then they might do it.
Yeah, she also then goes on to argue.
I noticed that before we go on, I noticed that she spells Islamophobic wrong. So Islamophobic or Islamophobic? Which one is it?
Who cares?
No one cares. But, I just find it interesting is that I take the subject really seriously. I just can't spell the word that I'm complaining about.
Yeah,
Let's carry on.
this is the kind of person who'll hold open the gates for the barbarians. Then
yeah.
she references in here that couldn't you have taught blasphemy in a way without blaspheming, without showing the cartoon?
Why should we?
It's like, well, how do you even do that? You fucking idiot! Like, sorry, swear, but it's just like I'm going to teach you about blasphemy, but I can't show you what blasphemy is.
See, there's a blank space here. Now imagine.
Like you're going to hold up a piece of blank paper and go, "This is Muhammad."
Yeah, but that might be like, whoa, he said that was a picture of Muhammad. He's just a really bad artist.
And then Muslims all around the world are burning the printing paper. It's just so stupid, man. I can't get over it. But also, it's also doubly stupid because there's a lot of people trying to compare this, like, but you wouldn't show anti-Semitic cartoons. It's like,
Yeah, what?
Yeah, we do. We do, actually, in the history class, to show you what the Nazis thought of the Jews. So don't give me this poppycock. I don't know what the...
I like offensive things. That's the thing. Like, I like seeing offensive cartoons about anything. I like one of my favorite things. In fact, we've got an image down there that I found in the Netherlands when I was on holiday in Amsterdam before we were crushed by COVID, and it's not a very flattering picture of Britain. It's a caricature of all the nations of Europe.
People can't see it. But
but it's a caricature of all the nations of Europe drawn in the national style of whoever the artist believes. Yeah, I'm aware that we're running short on time, but it's really good. It's it doesn't paint Britain in a very good light, but that's fine. It's fun. It's bands.
So then we call on the moderate Muslims, the totally moderate Muslims who have no ties to people who want to kill people who blaspheme at all. So this is the first one here, Mohammed Shafiq. So Mohammed Shafiq, the guy who got Tommy Robinson banned from Facebook, incidentally, he had what was it, like a 4 a.m. meeting in which he just lied to Facebook about Tommy Robinson, and then he got kicked. I should be calling him Lord Voldemort, but oh well. What's done is done. But this man has also got ties to organisations which literally call for the death of blasphemers in Pakistan, happily goes to their events.
And he's also a paper reviewer for BBC 5 Live.
Yeah, and he's a perfectly moderate Muslim who can be trotted out to say that, no, this is, you just need to insult my religion in a, he says here, in a respectful way. So it's like, you can criticise Islam as long as it's on Islamic terms.
Yeah, no.
That's not freedom.
That's not how it works.
Absolute idiot. So if we can go to the next one, this is Stephen Knight's article in which he documents Mohammed Shafiq's extremism, in case you're interested in it. But we're going to skip over because we don't have time.
Stephen Knight doing the Lord's work, incidentally.
Yeah, so the Muslim Council of Britain have also endorsed the Islamist position here, because of course they do. And then the Labour MP has said nothing, because why would she? Why would she get involved?
She's wearing a hijab. Why would she say a thing?
I mean, you looked at those demographic statistics. Remember, that's 2011. Is she going to get re-elected if she comes out against this?
I mean, you're going to have to kind of go pro-caliphate, aren't you?
So that's that. But the Conservatives are in government at the moment, so not the former chairman or former prime ministers, have come out and said some things. And I'm glad that they're saying some things. I just don't think they're enough. But we'll play them. So the first one here is the housing secretary. So if he's a secretary in the cabinet, he'll be told by the cabinet, yes, you can go out and say this. So that means the cabinet have discussed this, or at least Boris has, and they think, yeah, we ought to be on the side of freedom here, which, small things, small pleasures in life. So let's just play it.
This is a country based on free speech. and teachers should be able to tackle difficult and controversial issues in the classroom, and issues shouldn't be censored. And secondly, and most importantly, it's absolutely unacceptable for teachers and staff in our schools to be threatened or intimidated. We need to ensure that there is tolerance and respect, but I was troubled by the scenes I saw outside the school gates in Batley. We don't want to see those coming to work in our schools, children or parents feeling threatened or intimidated when they're coming into school, just because a difficult issue has been tackled in the classroom.
And of course, it's also a great concern, the reports that the teacher at the heart of this is having police protection, Secretary of State.
Yes, I was very troubled to hear that, because that's
They do something.
reminiscent of the scenes that we saw in France earlier in the year. We don't want to go down that route. Of course, a teacher shouldn't have to go into hiding in this country because of something they may have done or said in the classroom.
Then what are you doing about it?
But that's only because we know what happens. We know what happens if they don't. You get some conspiracy theory or lies that are promoted in the Muslim community, and then some lunatic travels all the way down from like Normandy or something and then beheads the guy in the street after paying people to show him who the guy was.
But sorry, I can't get over this. Like
God damn it.
Conservative secretary here. Like, I'm glad he's saying we should be on the side
Oh,
of
yeah,
freedom.
yeah, well, we should.
But sorry, this party has been in charge for what, like almost 10 years?
10 years.
10 years. And you're the ones like, oh, we shouldn't live in a country like this. Well, who's made it like this?
Yeah.
You guys have the power to stop the immigration from countries that believe that blasphemy should be a death penalty sentence, and yet you don't stop that. You don't take the actions of getting rid of blasphemy laws against SJW nonsense. So I'm sorry, I'm sort of out of patience with that thing. There was another Conservative MP who said something, but we'll skip over that.
He was doubtless tepid and pro caliphate.
Well, he was pro freedom as well. Was it Sir Swade? I can't remember his first name, but he's like good, nice, okay, but do things. Like, do the things that need to be done to make the country not how it is, because how it is unbearable.
Well, the thing that you've got to
sustainable.
do, the thing you've got to do is explain to the Muslim community in Britain that they just have to deal with it.
Yes,
they just have to deal with it. That's the point of other people having human rights, and one of those
also
human rights being freedom of
immigration.
speech.
Because I am
Sure.
sorry, but if you keep importing people who believe that blasphemy should be the death penalty, to the point where we have constituencies of over 50% of groups of people who would believe such a thing,
yeah,
what do you think was going to happen?
Obviously, but the thing is that they just have to understand that the state, the government, and all of the apparatus of the society around them is permissive of pictures of the Prophet Muhammad. And if they don't like that, then there are options.
Literally go back to Pakistan.
Yeah, you've got options. I mean, that has blasphemy laws.
There are plenty of blasphemy law countries in the world you could visit.
Yeah, and you can live in. But this just is not one of them, and you shouldn't be upset or be surprised by that.
Yeah. The last thing to mention, so we'll skip over this instead, was just that on Talk Radio they had the same guy on from the spokesman of the Muslims, who was continually asked by Julia Hartley-Brewer here that is it worse to have someone beheaded for showing an image of the Prophet or to show an image of the Prophet? And he had to be asked this 5 times before he said, yeah, okay, maybe beheading someone is worse than showing a cartoon. It's just
wow. I'm amazed. I'm amazed.
At least he got to there,
Okay, great. Good.
Man.
Good start.
But that's the absolute state of this country.
If you enjoyed this segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can watch the full broadcast live every weekday at 1 p.m. UK time on lotuseaters.com.